The really quick pitch is it's a mother and son story about damage and repair. All I had at the beginning was a woman walking past an old guitar and her taking it home. And it's a real Dublin thing. It's a poor thing, but it seems to me a thing I did a lot when I was young, which is like I couldn't walk past a skip without taking something out of it and bringing it home. And it was a mix of being a bit broke and being a student or being young or whatever, but it was also a thing of like, I can't see that being wasted. If I bring it home to my living room, I'll be a better I'll pick it up later and I'll become a guitar player. Anytime, that's my thing. Like, take it all home because maybe later on it'll be useful. It's a little bit of a hoarder, but that was all I had at the beginning. Was this woman brings home a guitar. Originally, she sold it. She tried to sell it to make money. But then I cut that out because it seemed it was a bit mercantile or whatever. So she doesn't sell it. She repurposes it as a gift, and the story started there, and one by one, as I was sort of writing it, I just added, I looked at her backstory, and I thought about this guy online, and I thought about her best friend, and I started sort of just lending characters into her world, and then some would fall and not make the final cut or the final draft of the script. But it seemed to me that was the sort of shape. It was a woman, her kid, her ex, her best friend, this guy online, and that music would sort of put a circle around that shape and bring everybody in a bit closer throughout the course of the movie. From the minute I spoke to her on Zoom from 3,000 or 6,000 miles away, wherever she was, it was just immediately she got the script, she got the humor, and she so wanted the role that as a writer-director, you're like, when an actor really wants something, that's a perfect place to be, because it's normally the director is trying to convince the actor to do something. And not that it was an exact reverse of this. We were both sort of into her doing it from the beginning. It's lovely when an actor feels like they're that they had to fight a little bit for it, and that they're really dedicated to it, and they want to sort of prove it to themselves and to you and to the audience. That's a lovely place to be in. So from the word go, the second we sort of started talking about the character, Eve was Flora. Young Orén was a very late arrival at the party. We were like a week out, 2 weeks maybe from shooting, and I was kind of not going to make the film until I found this kid, because it sort of pivots on him, doesn't it, a little bit? And he just, himself and his dad made this tape, and somehow I got it, and he was still. He wasn't. A lot of younger actors move a lot and move their heads and try and prove it and win it through moving, and he just stood. He walked onto his spot and he didn't move his he was a bit like Spencer Tracy, but a young Dublin millennial version of Spencer Tracy, which sounds ridiculous, but you know what I mean. He was still. He hit the mark, said his lines, and got off. And there was something very spare and to the point about his audition tape. And then I met him, and he's just a lovely kid. I know his dad, and there's a little bit of history there between, he's been in the film industry for a long time. So he's just this natural young kid that kind of came in at the last minute and made me and all of the production team sigh a great sort of sigh of relief. Yeah, you can root for flawed characters nowadays, can't you? It's kind of nice that cinema's gone in that direction. She's definitely a flawed, messed up young mum. But like, what young mother doesn't make mistakes? It's such a minefield raising a kid with all of the privileges and the benefits and the, two parents and aunties and uncles. Without all that structure, I mean, it's so hard. So yeah, she's a super flawed character, but sort of Eve did her in a great way and did her justice. I don't know. It's interesting. We looked at like James Joyce at Dubliners for this film, where the characters are neither flawed nor heroic. They just sort of are snapshots, beautifully told. And we felt that was the way we were going to approach her. We weren't going to say, let's have a good see her do something really good now to counteract what we just saw her do really brutally a minute ago. We just sort of pointed the camera at this character and sort of observed her from a little bit of a distance. And that was kind of the way we went into her. And so she is flawed, but I think you weirdly do root for her. But I mean, you're just invested in her from the word go. I'm not quite sure why or how those things work, whether it's somebody's face or it's a way they carry. It's just like you root for them in the way that when you see somebody walking along the street with a pram, you kind of root for them. And I don't think that Flora is necessarily like a fantastic songwriter, and that would be too much of a kind of like a fairy tale. Suddenly this girl from the flats is writing these hit songs. I didn't want it to be that. I wanted it to be this girl who found a guitar and sort of repurposed her life a little bit, is able to get up on stage in a pub around the corner from her flats and play a song. That to me is no smaller than winning a Grammy or an Oscar or whatever. It's a massive thing for a woman like Flora to be able to get up, take out a guitar and sing something that she's written. That's a huge leap in her story, and big enough, and really kind of Hollywood. The bigger the story, often the more you lose the delicate balance of what it's like to be an everyday human. So I feel like she's it's a very small triumph in terms of massive stories of people in Hollywood movies, but it's certainly big enough to be life-changing for her. Well, yeah, that was the central conceit of the movie, was somebody who had a neglectful, messed up relationship with her son, and sort of needs to find the right tool, or the right the right sort of present, or the right I guess it's tool to reinvigorate that relationship. And we always think that our kids are amazing just by default, and our relationships are going to be amazing with our kids, and then we start to find out that they're little humans and they're not tethered to us in this way. And I think that's where a whole new phase of parenting starts up again, where you look at them and they're the same size as you now, but they're emotionally so much smaller than you or younger than you. And you kind of look at them and go, Jiminy. I'm not personally at that stage yet. My kids are still really small, but I imagine it's a very interesting phase of parenting, where you kind of go, this child is as big as me now and takes up as much room, but I don't know the child as well as I thought I did, or as I did when she or he were 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever. And I just sort of wanted to kind of take a snapshot of that relationship and jump right into it. There she is. She's at a nightclub. She comes home. She's got this 14 or 15-year-old kid, and you're sort of straight into that relationship and what she needs to do to sort of bring the relationship on to the next level and try and fix some of the damage that was done when they were younger. But I thought it was an interesting challenge to sort of take that and push it really far and say, I'm never going to have these characters meet, but I am going to have them sort of fall for each other. And not literally in love, but in their head in love. And that was just a really interesting challenge in terms of setting it up. And then the irony then, of course, I thought originally maybe I should let the actor be in LA, because the story, he's in LA, she's in Dublin. Why not just shoot him in LA? Why not just shoot Zoom? And that immediately became problematic. And as anybody who makes a film knows, when you want to try and do something, you have to fake it. Everything is fake. So we had Joe and Eve together on set in 2 different rooms, and the wires were all going underneath and connecting. So they were actually, to all intents and purposes, were on a Zoom call. But we could manipulate the timeline of that slightly, and it was actually challenging from a technical point of view. It sounds very simple. Like, one person's over there, I'm here, there's a wall between us. They're literally coming through onto this laptop in front of me. But then you've got loads of sound challenges about, do I want to hear my voice, or do I want to hear their voice from the laptop speakers? So no, so you have to have a boom operator out there filming her sound and his sound here, so I can mix them when I need to hear. But I'm not going to ever cut to that other person on Zoom. It always is from Flora's perspective. So I wouldn't consider myself a musical fan, but those, when you get the right balance of drama and music, or comedy and music, it's heavenly. And it's almost like that's what cinemas are built for. It's like the singing that moves into music, that moves into dialogue, that moves back out into singing again. It's like, who wouldn't want this?